on your left. Do a little bit of thinking while I'm putting up crown molding. And so I was seeing some clips on YouTube from Marvel movies and whatnot. And, you know, we love the Avengers series and whatnot. And we talked about this before, but I don't know if it was in the specific context. So the heroes in the Marvel universe, or, you know, Superman, you know, DC, whatever you want to call it, is it the superpowers or the super character, morals, beliefs, whatever, that makes them super or a hero? I feel like this is going to go deep.
Hey man, I think it's probably a mix of both, but the foundation being their character. Like, Superman wouldn't be super if he was a jerk. He'd just be a colossal jerk. So, you know, what makes Captain America so amazing is that he's wholesome. So I do think that powers are an expression, but that we like who wouldn't want to have those powers? But that does not make them super. Like, it's their character, what they stand for, their values, what they strive to do, that would make them super. And I think that's why some people are really drawn to characters like Batman, because he doesn't have superpowers. He's got intellect, but it's his moral compass and what he's trying to do that draws people to him. So you have your gamut of superheroes, but I think when it really gets down to is that it's who they are, and the beliefs that they were created upon that makes them super. Make sense?
So it does make sense. And I think and that's kind of my thoughts as well, but I think something that signifies that is Spider-Man Homecoming, when Spider-Man has the whole ordeal with the boat getting cut in half and all that, and then Tony Stark comes in as Iron Man, saves the day, and Spider-Man says, you know, Peter Parker says, you know, please don't, or Tony Stark says, I'm taking the suit. This hasn't worked out. I'm taking the suit. And Spider-Man says, you can't take the suit. I'm nothing without that suit. And Tony Stark says, well, then if you're nothing without that suit, then you don't deserve it. So I think that little scene kind of signifies that. And I like that. But on that note, so Tony Stark is a superhero and was a guy of kind of questionable morals at times. You know, I think underlying maybe he had good intentions and all, but you know, so part of his superpower, other than the suit, was his intellect. So similar to Batman in some ways. What are your thoughts on the Tony Stark thing? You know, if we're talking about morals and character and all that, what's your thoughts there?
So Tony he's a great example of not having superpowers, of being a superhero. And he's one of those great examples of why people really love Iron Man. And yes, Iron Man is the Marvel version of Batman, for sure. But the beautiful thing about Tony is he's real in that, like, my own journey, I started out with questionable character. You know, you don't mean to be questionable in character, but let's face it, selfishness, greed, fear of loss, whatever, dog eat dog world. Sometimes we don't make the best decision for the greatest good. And I think that's where, like, I know it's fictional, but that's where I would believe Tony was at. He was not always making the best decisions for the greatest good. He was making decisions for his greatest good, not the overall global greatest good. But he had a pivotal moment in his life that changed that, right? And that's growth. So from a growth perspective, I think that's us. Like, so that's why he's such a beautiful hero, because people can change. And our goal in life, I think, is to grow to a higher plane than where we started out at. I am certainly knowing now that I am such a different person than I used to be. And I truly started out with some questionable intentions in some things that I've done. Not proud of them, but at the time, that's where I was. So I can't necessarily fault it. Now, I hope I'm further down or up the road than I used to be. At least now I want to be. So there's a line in the Bible where Paul is talking to some other believers, and he's like, look, I've not won the race. I'm not there, but I'm running the race. I'm trying to get there. I'm not perfect, but that doesn't mean I'm going to not try to be perfect. And I think, so he's a hero, right? So I think that's in all of us. Like, we all have this pull to become more than we are. And in Tony, in the fictional character of Iron Man, he had a pivotal moment that shifted his view on things, and he decided to become a different person. I mean, I think that he's a great representation of what it is to have growth, character development growth, spiritual development growth, just overall whole person growth. So I think Iron Man is especially as presented in the Marvel comics, in the movies, is a fantastic hero development character.
I'm steaming my cape, by the way, as we're talking about superheroes. No, it's actually the new flag for my workout area, since I had to get a smaller one because my giant flag no longer fits, but I'll show you that later. So I've always thought, so the whole Tony Stark thing and, question moral character and him growing, I've always thought that one of the more important parts of the hero stories in any film, Marvel, DC, whatever, was them making mistakes and recovering from that. And probably the greatest line ever about that is, Rocky Balboa, which, by the way, is one of my favorite superheroes. But, it's not how hard you get hit. It's, getting up and keep going, right? So I've always thought, especially for young people, watching these movies as they're impressionable and seeing that people make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. We're not done making mistakes. We're still going to make mistakes. But it's how you recover. It's what do you do afterwards? It's not about what happens to you. It's about the attitude you take. There's all kinds of cliches that cover that. But I've always thought that that's one of the more important things, is to see people recover. And then also, like we're talking about with Tony, growing and becoming something more character-wise. Yeah, good stuff.
Hey man, that's good. I agree. I think Rocky is a superhero. I love some Rocky, and I do like what you're saying about we're gonna make mistakes. I think that's the point, though. We're gonna make mistakes, but we have some draw in us, a pull where we want to do our best, or to be our best, to help others be their best. So yeah, I like, if you're gonna make my kids have this saying, full send. If you're gonna make a mistake, make it full send. Do your best, even if it's a mistake, and then learn from it, dust yourself off, get back up, and keep running the race. Anyway, man, I think you're spot on. All right, brother, thanks.